Welcome to I Love English TV.
This video is very rare and truly deserves encouragement. The success rate of this method is very high, reaching 100%. How to think in English. Stage 1. Think in verbs. The power of action words. The first stage of learning to think in English is to focus on verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. They describe what's happening. Why do we start with verbs? Because action is all around us. And it allows learners to actively connect language with real-life experiences. Let's take an example. Imagine you are in the street or in your neighborhood. You see people everywhere, all engaged in different activities. What are they doing? Some people are running. Others are talking. You see a dog chasing a ball and an old man feeding a pigeon. These actions are described using verbs. Run. Talk. Chase. Feed. By observing the actions around you can start thinking about them in English. This process of observing and identifying actions is something you can do anywhere. Whether you are at home or standing at the bus stop waiting for a traffic light or sitting at a cafe in your city. There are always actions happening around you. For example, you may see your mother preparing for a cooking dinner. Slicing tomatoes or grating onions. And your sister sweeping the floor or your neighbor watering flowers in the garden. You can mentally note these actions in English. Slice. Grate. Sweep. Water. Imagine you continue walking in the neighborhood. You see more people and animals engaged in various activities. A group of kids is playing soccer in the park. A woman is reading a book on a bench. A young man is riding a bicycle down the street. Two birds are flying over the trees. A delivery person is carrying a package to a house. A cat is climbing a fence. These actions are also described using verbs. Play, read, ride, fly, carry, climb. The more you observe, the more verbs you can learn by describing what people and animals are doing. Keep practicing by looking at everyday scenes and identifying the actions in English. Practical tips. Let's take aside 5 to 10 minutes each day to practice thinking in English. Pick a different place each day and focus on action happening around you. Take a walk or sit in a park and describe what you see. As you do this regularly, you'll train your brain to think about actions in English. Stage 2. Think in nouns. Naming the world around you. Once you've practiced thinking in verbs, it's time to move on to nouns. Nouns are words that name people, things, places, or ideas. Just like verbs, nouns are everywhere. Everything around you has a name. And if you can think of these names in English, you'll be one step closer to thinking and speaking fluently. Let's take an example. Imagine you are walking along the Nile River in Cairo. As you look around, you notice the river flowing gently. A traditional felucca sailing nearby. The boats tied along the shore. The beautiful sunset over the horizon. The skyline of the city with its tall buildings. Each of these things is a noun. River, felucca, boats, sunset, skyline, buildings. Each of these words names something you can see, hear, or feel, helping you to build vocabulary and think in English. Absolutely. Practicing thinking in nouns helps you identify and name the world around you, which is key to building your vocabulary and improving fluency. Here's another example to inspire you. Imagine you're sitting in a park in a busy city. You see green trees and colorful flowers. A few benches are placed along the walking path. Children are playing with a ball, while their parents sit on a blanket. There's a small pond with ducks swimming in the water. You hear birds chirping from the branches above. Trees, flowers, benches, path, blanket, pond, ducks, water, birds, branches. By consciously naming the objects and elements around you in English, you'll enhance your ability to think and communicate effectively. Stage 3. Think in sentences. Connecting verbs and nouns. Once you're comfortable with this, begin forming full sentences. Use verbs and nouns to describe what's happening around you. At this stage, keep your sentences simple. Just focus on creating short, clear sentences that describe what you see. For example, if you're in Kyoto, Japan, looking at the temple, you might say, "The tourists are visiting the temple. The cherry blossoms are blooming. The air is calm. The sun is shining. The wind is blowing." These are simple, but they allow you to practice thinking in complete sentences. And now, let's imagine you're in Madrid, Spain, sitting in a plaza. What's happening around you? You could describe the scene like this. The children are running around the fountain. The pigeons are eating crumbs. The sun is warm. A musician is playing a guitar. The trees are swaying in the wind. People are walking their dogs. The birds are flying in the sky. These sentences are simple but effectively describe the scene around you. As you become more confident, you can make your sentences longer. For example, if you're in Paris, France, walking near the Eiffel Tower, you may say, a group of tourists is taking pictures of monuments. Some are buying souvenirs from nearby stalls, while others are enjoying ice cream on a bench. These sentences include more details, giving a clearer picture of the scene. The goal is to practice forming sentences, rather than just thinking in individual words. This will help you become more fluent when speaking. Practical tips. Take 10 to 15 minutes each day to describe your surroundings in sentences. Whether you are at school or at home, or exploring a new city, try forming full sentences in your mind to describe what's happening. For example, if you're in a market, the vendor is arranging fresh fruits. A customer is bargaining for better a price. If you're in a cafe, you may say, the waiter is serving coffee. Two friends are chatting at the next table. A couple is reading a menu. This practice will make thinking in English much more natural. Stage 4. Think in paragraph. Bringing it all together. The final stage is to move from thinking in sentences to thinking in paragraphs. This means describing everything around you in detail. Imagine you are visiting the Great Wall of China. Here's how you might describe it in a paragraph. The Great Wall of China is very long and stretches over the land. It is made of bricks and stones. some of which are worn down with time. There are many tourists visiting the Great Wall of China. Some are taking pictures, while others are walking along the path, enjoying the view. People come from different countries, all wearing comfortable shoes for the long walk. Some groups are guided by local tour leaders, listening carefully to the history of the wall. Families are laughing and pointing at different parts of the wall. In this paragraph, you've combined everything: verbs, nouns and sentences to create a full description of a scene. By practicing this, you'll start thinking in English more naturally. All these steps are enough to master English much more natural. Let's take one more example to practice.